Yeah, good morning, guys. And in less than a couple of hours, we'll find out who the top four teams are in this year's college football playoff, the first ever college football playoff. But before we get to that, I consider myself a bit of a bowl projectionist by hobby. I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years now, and I'm excited to take that and share it with you here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break down the top four as I see it, and then the rest of the so-called New Year's Six, which does include Michigan State. But first, let's take a look at who I've got in the top four. I think we can say it's a pretty safe bet that Alabama and Oregon are going to be the top two, probably in that order. Alabama 1, Oregon 2, both 12-1, both looking extremely impressive. No reason those two shouldn't be the top two. Now, the bottom half of that top four is where it starts to get interesting. I've got Florida State at 3. There are some people who will make the argument that Florida State shouldn't be in the playoff, but I think if you're the selection committee, you're not going to take a 13-0 team, the only undefeated team, and leave them out of that top four. So I've got them in that third spot. Now, the fourth spot, I've got Ohio State. I think Ohio State played themselves into the playoff with that 59-0 win over Wisconsin last night in the Big Ten title game. I know TCU had that impressive win over Iowa State, I guess impressive by some people's standards. Now, putting up 55 points on a terrible Iowa State team doesn't really impress me as much as shutting out number 13 Wisconsin in a neutral site conference title game. Now, we get to the rest of the New Year's Six, and those are determined by the committee rankings. And these are the 8 teams that I've got in some order or another. I don't think there's going to be too much movement. So Boise State is in there by virtue of being the highest ranked conference champion from a non-power conference. It's kind of like the old at-large bid in the old BCS like Northern Illinois got a few years ago. So let's start with the other 4 games here in the New Year's Six, and we'll start with the Orange Bowl because that's the only one that's got any sort of a formula to it. The Orange Bowl is obligated to take an ACC team. Now, with Florida State presumably making the playoff, that leaves Georgia Tech. So we're going to go ahead and put Georgia Tech into the Orange Bowl. Now, the way the Orange Bowl works is the ACC team has to play the highest ranked non-champion from the Big Ten or the SEC. In this case, that appears to be Michigan State. So there you go, Spartan fans. Michigan State and Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl on New Year's Eve. So now, if you look at my list here, you may have noticed I've got 3 Big 12 teams, TCU, Baylor, and Kansas State. So basically, just by virtue of that, you're going to break them up into the rest of the bowl games. So let's just start with Baylor. I know we had the co-champions in the Big 12 rather, but Baylor won the head-to-head. So let's say the committee decides to throw Baylor a bone and give them a home game in the Cotton Bowl. So we're going to go ahead and put Baylor into the Cotton Bowl. That leaves TCU and Kansas State. I think given the geography, the committee will probably want to keep TCU fairly close to home. So we're going to go ahead and put TCU into the Fiesta Bowl, which by process of elimination puts Kansas State, there we go. Kansas State into the Peach Bowl. That leaves Mississippi State, Arizona, and Boise State. Now, you might think Arizona would go into the Fiesta Bowl. They could, but I see Fiesta Bowl as being more likely to be a Boise State destination. So we'll go ahead and put TCU and Boise State into the Fiesta Bowl. We mentioned Arizona, so let's put Arizona into the Cotton Bowl with Baylor. Now, it's important to note that none of these are regular season matchups. That's something the committee always wants to avoid is regular season matchups. So our one remaining team, Mississippi State, and we'll put them into the Peach Bowl with Kansas State. So to recap, Peach Bowl, Kansas State, Mississippi State, Fiesta Bowl, TCU, Boise State, Orange Bowl, Georgia Tech, and Michigan State. Those 3 are all New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, Cotton Bowl, Baylor, and Arizona. Now, I've also gone through and done bowl projections for every bowl game, so a few others I just want to mention real quickly. The new Quick Lane Bowl here in Detroit, I've got that as Maryland and Pittsburgh. It's an old ACC matchup being renewed here in 2014 with Maryland in the Big Ten. Also, a lot of CMU and Western alumni here in the area. Given the MAC Bowl structure, it looks like those two will go to the Boca Raton Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl in one form or another. I've got Central in the Bahamas Bowl. Not a bad way to spend the holiday, and Western in the Boca Raton Bowl. So a lot to go through. Once again, Michigan State looking to go into the Orange Bowl with Georgia Tech. That seems pretty clear to me. So Guys, let's hear what you have to think.